As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 130 of Zero to Hero, presented by J29 Creative Group. Right out of the gate, just want to apologize to anybody that really wanted to see that last 5 seconds of the countdown. Had to skip it. I couldn't wait. Needed to get to our next guest. His name is Austin Gray. He's a loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Austin, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm good. I love that video. I was smiling the whole time. That's great.
Thank you, man. That's awesome. I love that. Well, before we really get into it here, Austin, tell us a little bit about what's going on in the market with mortgages nowadays. Obviously, we've had some ups and downs here. Where are we at right now? Where are we going?
So a couple weeks ago, I had a financial advisor. We were doing a one-on-one, and he said the market is like a toddler right now, and it's very emotional. And, and like that's it. That's the best explanation I've heard in months, and that's really what it is. We may come out great in the morning, and then midday something hits the market, hits the media, and we see all those changes. And that's really where it's at. Overall, if you look at it from where we were a year ago, we're improving. We're almost a percentage point better, versus low to mid sevens versus low to mid sixes. That's overall an improvement, even though the day to day gets a little dicey sometimes.
I hear you. I hear you there for sure. Well, let's get into it here, Austin. Outside of obviously providing people with money to purchase their dream homes, tell us a little bit about who Austin Gray is. Give us your elevator pitch about you.
Yeah. So I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 7 years. I taught agriculture classes, shop classes. I was a basketball coach, track coach, have a track background and sports background, and did that for 7 years. Did a little part-time real estate and realized like I needed to change. So kind of short story, came into the lending world. I've been here for 4 years, and I take a lot of the approach of what I used to do when I was working with students. Take a concept that's often difficult to understand, sometimes daunting, scary, break it down to where I think it's understandable, and then check for understanding. Does that make sense? Are you comfortable with that? Try to take that teacher mentality and not necessarily the sales mentality when I'm working with people.
I love that you said that, man, because that's exactly right. When you said you used to be a teacher, I was like, oh, this is a perfect translation, because it really is. I mean, especially for first-time home buyers, right? I mean, sure. That was me 8 years ago, right? Bought our first home, had no idea what we were doing, no idea what we needed. So talk to the audience a little bit about that, right? What do they expect when they're buying a home for their first time? Kind of what's that process look like, especially when they're working with you?
Yeah. Well, and what I'll say too is that even if you went to buy a house today, it's been 8 years. Things are different. The process is different. And, you've forgotten a lot of the steps, I'm sure, that you went through. You're going to feel like a first-time home buyer again. And so sometimes we have those exact conversations. They're like, man, this is different than it used to be. And I'm like, there's a lot of changes. And so really it's just kind of, breaking down the process, start to finish, having a good relationship with their realtor so that basically everybody's just comfortable with what's going on and what they're signing. There's a lot of disclaimers and disclosures and so forth people sign. And it's not just, hey, sign this and, you'll learn it later. It's, do you have questions? Look at this piece of it, look at that piece. Make sure you fully understand and you're confident in what you're doing and what you're signing up for. But yeah, a lot of people, I talked to somebody yesterday and they were like, yeah, I've rented for 5 years. I'm like, you're a first-time home buyer again. As far as even the guidelines, you're considered a first-time home buyer again. So you get all the same benefits as somebody who's never owned before. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, explain that to me a little bit. So even if they've owned before, if it's been a certain amount of time, they're considered, as far as different opportunities, they're
Correct.
they're considered a first-time home buyer again. What is that
Correct.
time period?
So okay, now you put me on the spot. I believe it's 2 years. If you haven't known, I'm like, oh, the pressure. As I told somebody the other day, I'm like, the guidelines are there, and we can always go back and check them. You don't have to have everything memorized all the time. But I believe it's after 2 years of not owning a home, then you're considered first-time home buyer again. And it kind of opens up the doors for different down payment options, different down payment assistance programs that you couldn't have had before. And I will say, I throw this out here, a lot of people will call me and they say, hey, I want that first-time home buyer loan. And a lot of times I say, well, what is that? And there really is no first-time home buyer loan. The conventional has some options for first-time home buyers that they don't have for second time. The FHA has better, different options. But a lot of people, I think, say the F in FHA stands for first time, and that's not actually the case. It's more, maybe a more lenient loan, allows maybe lower credit, higher debt, income ratio, higher risk potentially, which might fit a first-time home buyer, but it's not specific to just first-time home buyers. It can actually, be for anybody. But that's probably one of the most entertaining questions I get. I want that loan. Which one? Tell me
Let me
about
get that first-time loan.
Yeah, I want that one.
I love
okay,
it.
great.
I love it. So really, it's about a period of not owning, right? So let's say, have we gone back to 2008, right? A lot of those folks maybe that ended up in that renting phase for a period, right, when everything crashed, would requalify for that, or maybe even a smart move having come into the market that we're into now, right, is maybe get rid of the house, sell the house, let's rent for a couple of years, and then when everything recovers, we're going to qualify for all these perks again.
Right. And there's a few perks. It's not a ton of perks. And sometimes it may not even, you may look at the numbers and say whether it be worth it or not. Let's go for this loan versus that loan. And that's what I tell a lot of people that apply is, let's take the application in, let's review the numbers, review your situation, and then lay out the options, kind of like a buffet. If you search in this area, you could use this loan, probably this down payment option, this potential, maybe assistance, if you're looking for assistance. If you switch, state lines, if you go from Missouri to Kansas, vice versa. If you look in an area that qualifies for a USDA loan versus not. If that's the case, then we'll switch the loan up and look at this option. So we try to let people know, and honestly, maybe it changes their pre-approved amount. Maybe it changes their monthly payment amount that they're going to be comfortable with. But then they kind of know as they're out shopping that if they look on, this side of the street or in this town versus another, they know which loan option is going to be best for them.
I love it, man. I love it. That's awesome. I'm not going to put you on the spot anymore. I'm going to try not to put you on the spot anymore. Get back on track here. But obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge. So if you guys do have questions, that are specific to your situation or where you're at, definitely get in touch with Austin so he can answer those for you. But Austin, obviously, so you said you used to be a teacher, and then we went into this world of selling services, right? So when we started with that, there's probably very little to no social media following in relation to mortgages, right? 0 likes, 0 follows, 0 posts, that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit about what that journey has been like and leveraging that to help folks out.
Short journey. I'll be honest, I don't do much with social media. I'm working on that, right? And what everybody says, it's always a work in progress. And so we've got a great person in our office who's our social media coordinator. Her and I have monthly video, sessions now, and we try to get 3 or 4 videos set up for the month so that we can put those out. And like the question you just had, tell us about first-time home buyer options. Tell us about how you're different, those kind of things. And those are what I try to do and try to post. But as far as the social media stuff, I will say I need to be better. And I bet there's some great companies I could talk to out there. I think a great one, right? Is that J29?
Yeah,
they would be a really great resource for me.
Well, I mean, it sounds like your social media person has the right idea, right? Let's get Austin out there, right? Let's get him on video. Let's let people know who he is, right? And then display that knowledge, which is exactly what we would want to do for you anyway. Right. So it sounds like she's on the right track, man. She's nailing it.
It's one of those things where I've always been a little uncomfortable on camera. And the old like, I'm not sure what to do with my hands. So I've got, if you've seen this a year ago, if you talked about doing a podcast every, I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think but yeah, I've come a long way as far as, being on video, answering questions. And so, yeah, I just keep working on it. Right.
I love that you're open and honest about that, man. Because I obviously we do work with a ton of clients with social media, and video is a huge part of that, right? And that is one of the things, the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome, right? Is like, are you comfortable on camera? And they're like, no, absolutely not. Like, oh no, this is going to be difficult, right? Talk to us a little bit about how you overcame those, right? Obviously, you just went out there and did it. That's the first step to it, right? But yeah, talk to us about that process.
So, somewhat separate story. So when I first got started, another loan officer with Fairway, she said, I try to help my clients get their offer accepted by sending a video to the listing agent. And instead of just a call or a text message, it'd say, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Hey, this is my name. We've pre-approved this client. We've put an offer. We're here for you. My very first time I made that video, it took me 22 takes to make that video. Because there was always some like, oh, my face, my hair, the noise in the background. I stuttered through something. And first one was 22. The next one was 12. And I was like, oh, that's huge. I got to where towards the, it took 6 months probably of every time I would do these, it just get less. I could do one. Like I could pull over in a parking lot in my pickup and just do one real quick, send it. And it's just practice, right? It's just practice. And then getting the confidence that it's not going to be perfect. But it's gonna be get the point across and then send it.
And that I would add that it doesn't need to be perfect, right? I mean, when you're showing up, in your real authentic environment, I mean, you're driving down the road like, oh shoot, we're pre-approved. Let me pull over. Let me record this video and send it to a listing agent. I mean, that's awesome, and I think that almost would probably work better than that. Perfect situation stage. Or a studio, right? Like that kind of stuff where they're like, oh my God, like what is that? Like you put too much time into this, I love that, man. That's, just do it, right? And then don't worry about whether it's perfect or not, right? I mean, that authentic situation that you're in I love it, Austin. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for sharing. Now, Austin, every super has a defining moment. What do you think yours is, not only when it comes to your career, but your life as well?
Truthfully, I think it was when I became a dad. And maybe not at that exact moment that I became a dad. It's probably like 6 months later, a year later, that you're just holding this baby and whatnot. And you're like, you can't be that selfish, dumb kid anymore. Like it's time to grow up and it's time to figure things out. And, your impact has a greater impact on my son. And when you first kind of teed that up of like, what was the impact? I think that was it. People often talk about like their why, right? And if your why is strong enough, you can overcome any how. And to me, that's it. I've got a big picture over my desk and it's all of our little family pictures. And when you're having that day that is not going the way that you want it to, you just kind of, you look up there and you're like, yep, this is why I'm doing these things. And it kind of brings you back to your focus.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. Absolutely, man. I love it. And I love that you openly admit, hey, maybe it wasn't that exact day, right? But it was that realization, right? Because I think everybody like points back to like, oh, the day I became a dad. And I'm with you, right? I'm like, maybe, I felt something that day. But as they start to grow, right, it's like, oh, man, like this is something else, right? It's wild.
Sometimes it takes that time to sink in, that it's like, you're not just taking care of this other person, and providing for them, but it's also like you have to be an example for them. And it's like that changed a lot of the ways that I looked at. I mean, truthfully, that's when my career changed. And he was born in 2020. COVID was going on at the time, and having a baby, and we were kind of like, is this career what I want to stay in for long term? And a lot of those things start coming up, and it's not like that, like baby's born, you change everything. But you start asking yourself a lot more of those questions are things going in the direction that I want them to go? And in 10 years, is this where I want to be? And so, it was about through that 2 years that I was started to, change careers and switch things up.
I love it, man. I love it. Now, Austin, obviously villains have attributes as well as heroes. What do you think are the attributes that really define more of that hero side?
I think that kind of goes back to the previous example also. It's like you're doing something for someone else and you're putting yourself out there, potentially as a real hero, in harm's way to protect others. And I think that's a big thing. It's like you set your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions aside to be able to provide for someone else. And you make them the priority in that time. And I think we do that, as parents and in relationships, in our work environment, where sometimes you have to set your things aside and focus on someone else. And I think those are all the strong attributes of a hero.
I love it, man. Yeah, that selflessness is definitely one of the biggest ones for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Austin, here's the hard one. If you had to pick any superhero out there that best relates to Austin Gray, who would that be? And tell us a couple reasons why they relate best to you.
So truthfully, I wasn't sure until I saw your video with is it they cops that they call it?
Yeah.
And I was looking through them. Batman. I had all of the Batman toys when I was a kid. Like Batman was the coolest. And so then you kind of think like, I need to be able to justify this. I was like, oh, why was it Batman? I kind of wonder, it's like, is it because he didn't have any superpowers, right? He wasn't just given the set of powers and just say, okay, here you go. It's like, you're trying to figure out, come up with the tools to be able to, beat the bad guy. And I think that's what it was. And of course, he had the really cool like motorcycle and the jet and all that. But I think as you kind of think about it, you're like, yeah, that's pretty neat. He had no superpowers. He was super rich. He didn't have to do this at all, but he chose to. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
I love it, man. I love it. That's perfect. Awesome, man. Thank you for coming on the show. You've been absolutely awesome. Where can people find you? How can they follow you? How can they get in contact with you if they're ready to make that step?
So I think the easiest way to do that, of course, you're talking about making a purchase, right, or potentially refinancing your home and getting pre-approved and all that kind of stuff. Check out my website, right? And if you go to Fairway, even if you just Google Fairway Independent Mortgage Austin Gray. Yep, there it is, Gray. It's got my information there. I look a little bit different, grown the beard out. For a while. I was cracking up when I saw my picture in the intro. I get that a lot. I'll go to a closing, and they're like, that's not you. This is who. So, I work out a little bit more than I used to, and I grow the beard out a little bit. But, check me out there, and also on Facebook, of course. And as I'm getting more social media videos out there, great way to see those. So thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. You can also follow him on LinkedIn, and then you can check out what Fairway Independent Mortgage is doing on their LinkedIn there as well. Man, Austin, thank you again for coming on the show. You're absolutely awesome. And facial hair does change. You can look through the last 130 episodes of Zero to Hero and see a mustache, a beard, clean shaven, where I'm at now.
There you go. It's fun. Awesome. So, let's just grow it out. See how far it goes, right?
It's like our makeup, right? We got to change it up every once in a while.
That's right.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for coming on the show. Everybody out there, thanks for tuning in and have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Hey, are we still live? Hey guys, we're still live. Hey guys, this is Kevin Kwok, founder of J29 Creative Group. So who are we? We're a marketing agency here in Kansas City. We're all about a holistic approach to marketing that builds your brand and nurtures online community. But to be honest with you, you guys don't care.